Hello and welcome. I am Omkar Kadam and you are listening to
Create greater than consume.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Create and Consume. This is the podcast where we explore the minds of creators and visionaries. We uncover the depth and purpose behind their work. Today, I am excited to be bringing a very special guest and a personal friend, Parakh Shahal. Parakh is currently working on a Android app called as Manobal, and he is a profound thinker and purpose-driven builder. So, without wasting further time, let's get into it and let's ask Parakh to introduce him and take us into the details of what he's building. Welcome, Parakh.
Hey, Omkar, nice to meet you. Uh, It's a mental health companion, and you can talk to it via WhatsApp. So solve the distribution problem.
Okay, nice. So can you give a brief introduction about yourself and what led to build this app? How did you get into building? How did you get into awareness about mental health and how did the journey start?
So yeah, I'm fairly recent into tech and coding and all those things. My mother is a psychologist, and she has been practicing for decades now. So I have seen the problems that people face in regards to the expenses of individual sessions and all those things. And my mother also believes that it's unnecessary to have long duration sessions. Like, don't need to have 52 sessions a year. It doesn't make sense. There's some small problems that we just need a compassionate person or individual to listen to. And that solves a significant amount of problem. And quoting out in India 1500 rupees per session is is a ghastly amount of money for a lot of people. And I thought we could tackle a problem by introducing a companion who is trained in therapy but is not a therapist, is trained and can help you figure out problems that you're going through in life. It could be anxiety, stress, panic attacks, and addictions as well. So that's the main concept. I saw my mother doing it. She had this vision of making it accessible to everyone, and somehow it's a time constraint. You can only give 1 hour, and you can't go beyond that to a session. So you're limited by 24 hours a year, 24 hours a day. And I think that constraint cannot be changed if unless we increase the distribution. And I thought distribution is the best for best distribution. We use tech. So that's how I came about it.
That is such a wonderful thought, and it is a noble initiative that making therapy accessible and democratized using tech can really be a wonderful, impactful venture. So, I am excited about how this goes. And can you tell us more about what stage of your building or what stage of your app development are you currently in?
So currently testing has begun. We have started testing and we've gotten good results. Just building the database to for authentication, and we'll be launching it on the 2nd of September 2024. So it's done. The ideation stage is done. The development stage is done. The testing is ongoing and will be commencing in a day or two, and we'll be launching it soon enough.
So, who were the early set of users that you have tested this platform on?
Mostly friends, and of course, you and I both know the Proxima group. So
Yes.
I've been to the group and I've showed people around there how, and the reception was decent. And after that, with the feedback, I have also improved the. I fine tuned it better. I have prompted it better. And we are getting better results now. So it's mostly friends and family, and of course, people like yourself who are deep into tech, finding those people and figuring those things out, getting feedback, build space. Feedback is absolutely necessary. Nothing else matters.
So, can you tell us about some interesting feedbacks that you received from, especially from your mother, because she's a practicing psychologist. So, her insights would be a keen differentiator, as in she would have much more deeper insights as compared to the average audience, average target audience that you're getting the feedback from.
Yes, of course. So one thing that has happened is I didn't know how deep someone needs to go into this. This conversation needs. It's not. I'm anxious. Take a deep breath. I used to believe that if we can offer instant solutions, that solves the problem. It doesn't. It takes care of the symptoms. So my mom said that it needs to be conversational and it needs to be Socratic in a way that he needs to keep asking questions to figure out what anxiety is a symptom, but it's not the root cause of the what's the root cause of the anxiety that we need to figure out. Unfortunately, one of our testing users found great help, and they sent about 25 to 30 messages, and the AI model was uh, very good at giving a very specific niche advice in regards to therapy. It said that you need to write a forgiveness letter, and that's very specific. There's a huge database that has been put into the model, and to get to somewhere that's so specific, so necessary, and so accurate to the user, I think that was a success. And I think it was because my mother just kept on telling me to make it Socratic that we were able to get to that point rather than just get going over the symptoms. I think it might be able to help people in a very long term situation rather than just not just a snap of the fingers. More than that.
Yes, agreed. So Socratic reasoning is a very powerful framework which helps to ask underlying questions and understand the main root cause of the problem and then try to fix those problems. I would like to understand if your model has more such interesting mental models, and if you could elaborate on whichever mental models you have implemented in the algorithm.
Yes, of course. So Socratic is the main one. Apart from that, we have prompted it to be more compassionate, to uh, make sure that it's very humanistic in nature because we look for people who can understand our pain. But how do you make a model understand pain? So you need to go through those latent spaces where those vectors are lying dormant right now. And then you go there and you try to prompt those out of it to make sure that those are at the forefront of conversation. And it's not very, it's, it sounds, it's robotic. AI model is robotic, but it should not sound robotic. So how do you make sure that it's very conversational, compassionate, empathetic, understanding? How there's this complexity of it that how do you how do you explain to someone that is not a human to act human? I think that was the biggest challenge. Once you try to maneuver it into human emotions and those latent spaces that are dormant in regards to say compassion, empathy, you need to bring those out, and once those come forth, then it's like talking to a good friend who's available 24/7, who's compassionate, who's well versed in helping you, and very patient with you.
Okay. So humanizing generative AI output is a real pain point across all industries. I would like to understand what are your approaches to make the AI sound or be simulate the humanness that we are talking about.
So mostly I've focused on examples because AI models once trained on examples are really good at kind of vomiting out those experiences continuously. And I have told it to explore latent spaces in regards to human emotions. And then there's this probability matrix, right? How close is it to other? If you are sad, there's a good chance there are emotions, despair, anger, frustration that are very close by. So once you pick a space, a latent space where I think it operates at good capacity, once you find out it's operating at a very good capacity over there, you tell it to explore that place constantly or to bring that space out more frequently than the others. So that's how I went about it. Mostly it was system prompting, fine tuning with examples, and temperature testing and token testing. Those things.
That's nice. And what is the LLM model that you're using?
Right now I'm using Gemini Flash. It's cheap, it's free, and easily accessible. And I think they have released a very recent model with Gemini Flash Experimental. I'll be experimenting with that. So let's see. I'll be once we are, that's the goal right now. But eventually, we also want to develop our own model that's not bogged down by, say, big corporate safety measures. That's another problem that I've had with Gemini. There are some topics that it is not willing to discuss, even though the safety settings have been decreased because you cannot eliminate those. But we're getting there. You can hack a model in some ways, and I think we've been able to do that, but it's not a long-term solution. We need to develop our own model, so it's not a problem when some deep topics that might be controversial, maybe, but is necessary to be discussed, which are taboo, but certain addictions that people are unwilling to talk about, and the model also does not allow. I think it's necessary that there should be no barriers in communication, otherwise, there's no healing done in the process. So that's the second goal.
Yes.
Once we get into mass markets, then we'll be developing our own model.
Yes, you can jailbreak the system, but some guardrails are put because the AI should be used responsibly and fairly. So it is a tight and delicate rope to balance.
Yes.
So yes, I can understand the pain and the challenges of making it sound human and not very human and not too vulnerable so that people could use it for unfair reasons and try to exploit it. It is difficult. What are some other challenges in tech that you faced while designing or working on this solution?
I think the tech challenges were few, but not many. Individual challenges were quite a bit. The Once you start a project and you have these expectations with it, and once it you feel that if you do take action, that might maybe the expectations are not met, and that kind of catapults you into a very paralysis kind of place. Like you paralyze yourself, and asking for help is also another one. I would suggest anyone who's watching this or who's listening to this, it's very necessary to ask for help. That's one of the biggest hurdles that I also faced, and I was up until 4:30 a.m. today morning because I was trying to fix something. But then I called a coder friend of mine, and he came and he helped me out. And within 1 hour, it just resolved. The problem resolved itself technically. And I think those things were biggest problems for me. I think most problems are not technical problems. It's the lack of courage, the paralysis, and the mostly humanistic internal problems, the barriers to great achievement, not technical ones.
Yeah, that is so nicely put. I would like to also understand your reasoning behind the choice of the current model and if you compared or benchmarked several other models and what were the main factors or decision metrics that led to Gemini Flash as the model for your choice.
Yes, so the biggest consideration was that it should be cheap. That's what we had in mind because that's what our goal is. A mental health companion that you don't have to worry about being expensive, you don't have to think twice about asking for help. That's another motive that we started with this with. So Flash has been free right now and it's going to be extremely cheap. So that's one reason. I also tested open source models. I tested Llama, the 8 billion parameter model, the Instruct. The thing was, it's the great thing is that there are less safety measures on it. There are less guardrails, so it's very much open to discuss things. But it will take a lot of time to fine tune it because there are no guardrails, so it goes off. It just you can't. There's no systematic process to it to Llama, and eventually we figured out that it's best to go with Gemini, and there's an existing infrastructure for it, and if there'll be continuous updates, there's no doubt about it because Flash, there's a recent Flash update, and it's going to be progressing much quickly because, of course, Google have their own TPUs. They can train it and they can fine tune it really much faster than anyone else in the market. So in the end, it should be cheap and there should be less problems in the future while using it. So those were the two metrics that we decided that Gemini Flash would be the better model compared in the current space there is.
Okay. And how important do you think the knowledge cutoff feature or the knowledge cutoff of thing is for while picking models?
So the benefit of fine tuning is that you can update with your own data. So it does not need to be current, and if it isn't, you can update it immediately. You can create your own database and you can push it into the model, and eventually you can prompt it to go about the data however you feel that is best. And so I don't think knowledge cutoff is a problem for us right now. Of course, it will be a problem for search engines or something like that. They need up to date answers. We are not that. We are a fine tuned model that has all these techniques that might help you out. Breathing is a technique that's ages old and unlikely to be changing very soon. So we don't have that worry about knowledge cutoff feature in the model.
Okay. So what are there are a lot of mental health applications or web apps currently in the market. How is Manobal different from these existing applications?
So what we're doing at Manobal is, I think, slightly different than most. Is we have decided not to launch an app or a not web based, not Android based, not iOS based. What we are going to use is an existing distribution system, which would be WhatsApp. So you can talk to the chatbot via WhatsApp. That solves the distribution problem for us. And Meta will take care of updating WhatsApp for many devices because a lot of devices on Android use WhatsApp regardless. So we don't have to be worrying about updating software and all those things, making sure the UI is good and all. It doesn't make sense for us to focus on those things, and we can focus primarily on the model. And we're going to be focusing on not individual consumers. We'll be approaching corporates and we'll be approaching coaching centers. As you know, coaching centers in India have a huge stress burden for students, and I think they definitely need it, and they'll be better off with it. And I think organizations are in the same boat. Too much stress in corporate. I think a little someone who understands what you're going through and can help you out is a huge boon. That's how we are different right now.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that would give you a steady funnel of people who can actually interact with and give outputs, try your product and give suggestions and feedback much quicker.
Yes, of course. That's one of those ideas that going to corporates and, like you said, coaching centers, we'll have a lot more feedback because we are funneling it out to a lot of people immediately. About 500 people, 500, if at least 10% of them give feedback. There's 50 people that improve the model by many factors because it's not a linear progression. It's pretty much logarithmic exponential improvement with each feedback, each iteration. And I think the uniqueness and the feedback that we get from the model that we are launching right now, it can be implemented on the model that we'll be creating on our own.
Okay. And I am curious to know about how are you approaching and working on these partnerships?
Yes. So primary method of contacting organizations is LinkedIn right now. And that's what we will be doing. We'll be reaching out to mostly HR and their mental health heads of department in many organizations right now. It could be the big four, and also many industrious organizations like Reliance and Tata's in India also have these mental health champions per se, who are very much involved in the mental health aspect of the organization. And I think that's how we'll be approaching that. And coaching centers will be talking to uh, heads of coaching centers that would be in we'll start regionally with that. So I'm currently based in Mumbai. We'll be going to heads of coaching centers in Mumbai, and we'll be talking to them about how the stress impacts students and how it will be beneficial for the or coaching center, for the children and for the parents, of course. And I think the same thing for corporates as well. That most likely be has been a study that if mental health and these things are solutions are provided to the corporate employees, there's a boost of 28% in productivity. So I think that also is a great way to make individuals and corporates understand that how beneficial it can be, not just for the employee but also for the organization.
A lot of good workplaces have employee wellness centers, and I think that could be a good starting point for such outreach. But like, what do you think are the how wide is employee wellness thought in the Indian workplace, in the Indian economy?
I do think it's a very humorous kind of subject that they think it is. That the solutions are not solutions per se. It's what they think might be solutions. A good a good plate of food, maybe some music and dancing. They believe that that might solve the stress problem. It doesn't. And there's a very prevalent view that making an employee happy means the employee is satisfied. They're two very different things. Just because you're happy does not mean you're satisfied. And happiness is very momentary. You feel happy in moments, but you're satisfied in sort of eternity. Satisfaction should be the goal. If you're satisfied, regardless of how bad your day is going, you will most likely do what is best for you, or if you're in an organization, do what's best for the organization. Satisfaction should be a primary goal. And in regards to that, that's why we have decided to make it really cheap. So we have uh, found out that it would be best to charge it per 1,000 rupees, like 1,000 rupees per employee for 1 month, and that's 1,500 or so messages, 15,000 messages you can have with the chatbot for the month. And 1,000 rupees for an employee salary, it's not much. If 30,000 or 40,000 is the employee salary, 1,000 rupees per month is not that much for the organization to pay, especially if that results in boosted productivity. It's game theory. You need to make sure that they have an incentive to do it rather than just making the employees happy. How will they make money out of it is more important to them, which is reasonable. Selfishness leads to capitalism. Capitalism leads to gains for everyone. So why not? So I think we need to make sure that they understand this productivity boost will allow them to be much better as an organization, and it will also help the employees.
Yes. And how does your pricing compare with other competitors in the same space?
So the pricing system is on par, and we are not much cheaper. We are not much more expensive. But the advantage we have is that we have figured out a distribution network, and that allows us to keep a very small team. We don't need developers for the Android app. We don't need developers for iOS app. We don't need developers for web-based systems. We just need someone who works on the database side and some AI engineers who will be able to fine tune it and train the model better with feedback. Someone who someone who sells in maybe 5 people, and that's it. And that allows us to be much more efficient and work really fast compared to other organizations.
Yes, I think if this grows out of scale, then the requirements that you are mentioning would again increase very fast and very rapidly. And I hope that that is a good problem to solve, and you face that problem and like try to get ahead of it.
I hope for the same. But yeah, it seems like a reasonable outcome.
Yeah. So, like, what were exactly the reasons that out of all the technical or the societal problems that you could solve, how did you zero down to this, like mental health, wellness, or accessibility problem that you're solving right now?
Yes, again, it comes back to my mother. She has been trying to crack the space to make sure that it's affordable. She um, last year she got sick, unfortunately, and now she's much better. But last year was very tumultuous for us. But before that, she had launched a product which was a box. She called it Therapy in a Box from Think Therapy. And the goal was that the box is 2,000 rupees and it provides about 4 sessions amount of work. So if 1,500 per session, that's 4,000, 6,000 rupees all in all for 4 sessions. And she was trying to make it, bring it down to 2,000 rupees for 4 sessions. And she had been successful in it. She had gotten some traction, but she got sick, so she couldn't pursue it. And she also believed that even at 2,000 rupees, there weren't there wasn't a lot of fanfare and reception as it should have been. And so I suggested that why don't I help you out? I have some technical knowledge. I know the space, and I know there is a huge demand for it because there is a need for it. So she said, if you can make it cheap, she said the goal should be cheap. Anything else, whatever you want to do, you do, and I'll help you out with the tuning. However you feel, however you see fit, do it that way, but make sure that it's cheap. So eventually, I just let it sit in my mind. I let it sit in my subconscious, and eventually, as an idea works itself out, I realized that I could maybe create a AI chatbot. I also saw Levels.io create a Telegram bot, and I thought if you can make a Telegram bot, why don't I make a WhatsApp bot? It's more prevalent in the Indian society. A lot of people use it and solves the distribution problem. So I think that's where I got the idea from. I saw Levels.io do it, and I thought it would be great if we could make it for WhatsApp. Of course, WhatsApp is expensive because of the Twilio API kind of thing, but it's still I thought even with low margins, it solves a very big problem. So maybe we start off with low margins, but eventually it might flourish into something bigger and better.
Yes, I think you should also explore a freemium or a free trial, a limited free trial approach, and have a kind of daily active users who are trying to use it, and then try to make your app better, and then try to like monetize on those active subscribers.
Yes, I agree with you. I was actually reading this book called The Cold Start Problem,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very similar same thing that was mentioned. What you said, it's starting with a freemium model where the user finds out if it's worthy for them, if it's worth it for them, and then eventually when they find out that okay, it makes sense for them to pay, they upgrade it. And I think they gave Zoom as an example for it to start as free because eventually if the product is good enough, users will pay for it. But you need to create some way for them to kind of get the taste of the drug per se.
So have you thought in that direction, or are you trying out the to experiment with a certain set of users and try to give them free access to this so that they can test it out and share?
So we have given free access to quite a few people. About 15 concurrent daily users who just give us feedback at the end of the day, and people who we know and we can get in touch with very easily.
Mhm.
And we have implemented those things, but I think we'll also be implementing a freemium model, especially if we want to give people a demo of what it is, how it works. Of course, the workings of it are very easy. You just send a message and it adds you onto the like you can start a conversation just by sending a message that this is my authentication number. So that won't be a problem. But providing a demo and making sure that people feel that it's worth their time is also a priority of ours. That people should have use for it. We just don't want them to pay for it because an organization is paying for it. It should be of value to them. It should help people because that's a main goal. If you're depressed and you still are paying for it, then that's even worse. There should be something
Yes.
that should help.
Yes, agreed. Welcome back. So, till now, we heard about Parakh's very interesting journey about how he is working on a mental health awareness app called as Manobal, and what are the challenges that this app will solve. How will it democratize and make mental health accessible to a lot of individuals? And we understood his design decisions and how it is that he picked his LLM, and what are the general challenges of humanizing outputs and making AI empathetic and approachable. Now I am excited to dive deep into how can therapy, which is a very individual or a very personal topic, be uh, kind of revolutionized with the support of communities, and how can uh, like-minded folks, like-minded groups help in making this initiative more effective. So let's get Parakh's inputs on this. How can community help make this project even more better?
Yeah, so another thing that I have been thinking about is once we get a lot of people onboarded, and of course they'll have to consent, we can figure out what their personality types are, and we can match them up to other people who have similar interests, who have similar personalities. You and I have both been in multiple founder groups in Mumbai, and I think it has helped me tremendously, and I'm sure it has helped you a lot as well. I'm not sure, but I hope so. My goal in the end is to take care of a lot of uh, problems that humans face are mental, like loneliness epidemic, and we see people trying to solve it. I've seen this friend tab that's being going viral on Twitter right now, and they say it technically solves the loneliness problem. And I think that it's a good decent step, and it should not be a problem. But human connections are very much irreplaceable. You do not admire someone who is infallible. You admire someone who has failed and is now successful, or does not let it bother them so much that they just persevere. And failing is very humanistic. All humans fail, and it kind of binds us together, as and not as much as success. Like success is great for if everyone succeeds, that's great, but it does not offer that tribal feeling that we are in this together. Failure does. So I think AI can help you in immediate processes that they might talk to you great, and then they might uh, be very compassionate. They might give you a pat on the back as a friend, or like Tab is. But ideally, human connections are so much more than just ideas exchange. It's the feeling of being in the mud together. Everyone's striving towards the same thing. Like in our groups, everyone's building, everyone's in the mud together. So that's what binds us. It's not our ages, it's not our languages that we speak, it's nothing else. It's just that we know that is tribal, that we as a tribe are building things. So that's my next goal, to use data and connect people.
Yes. So I heard a lot of interesting stuff. One was resilience, another was community building. And I would like to understand, how do you connect both of these aspects? Like, how do you think community, being a part of community or belonging, can increase or can have an impact on the resilience or the kind of mental aptitude or a never giving up attitude of a person?
We underestimate community a lot. We glorify the lone wolf, and it does not make sense. A lone wolf will eventually die much faster than when he's in a pack. One thing I've realized is before I joined Socratica Mumbai, I was a finance guy trying to dabble in tech, and I realized that's what I might be doing. I'll get into finance and I'll learn to code on the side, right? And there was a lot of doubts in my head in regards to those things. And then I met you, I met Rishi, I met Avijit, and I remember the first thing you told me. You said you're a DevOps engineer and a poet. I'm like,
Yes.
I don't have to be just a finance guy. And then I noticed that people had multiple interests and they can pursue them. No one's holding them back. No one said you can't do it. And I think once I realized that, okay, Omkar is doing poetry, he's doing software engineering, and he's interested in philosophy. I'm like, I have similar interests. I can pursue them. He is. So you get that thing that that's what community is for. It tells you that you might fail, but then there's very little to lose in trying. And I think that's what I think community is for. They allow you a certain understanding that, okay, failure is not bad. And there are people who have given a shot to similar things and have succeeded. So I think that's what failure is a very important part of being human. And I think that's the most important thing right now to understand.
Thank you so much. I really like that I could have a little impact on or inspire you to dream big and take on risk. And I believe that people can do anything that they set their minds to. And the problems that we think they are just in our minds, we have everything that we need to solve them. So it is about reading, or it is about trying to prioritize things and make sure that we spend our energy to things that matter to us. And yes, I have been very fortunate to be in the network of people like you, and you inspire me to do more and more. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah. Means
So like what are the next what is the next step for your app Manobal?
so I think by the time we'll be releasing this podcast, we'll be in the market. We'll be
Mm-hmm.
talking to people. Website would be up, and testing would have been completed. So that's where we'll be. Next would be as the operation grows to hire people and implement second order and third order ideas. This is the first order idea. We dig deeper to build a model, and then further down the line, we build communities and so on and so forth.
Yes. So we discussed a great idea in the podcast itself, like community and recommendation based on like-minded individuals. I think that can also make a fantastic product if created mindfully. So I am pretty excited to all the products that you build. And if you need any help with any part of tech or implementation, I am always accessible and I can always help you with anything that you share.
Thank you so much, Luca. I know you're always there to help out. And not just me, you have helped out a lot of people in Socratica group, in a Proxima group. So I know you're there for help, and that means a lot.
Yes. So it is now a point to have to go to the final or closing remarks, and I would like to know what is the one thing that you would like all the audience or all the subscribers of the podcast to go back and reflect on after watching this podcast.
So everything I said in the podcast, I agree with it completely. One thing that I haven't mentioned, and I think is very, very necessary, and I think you will agree with it a lot more because you practice it. I just know about it. One thing I would like everyone to think about very strongly is you need to feel deeply. If you're a creator, if you're a builder, it's very necessary that you feel deeply. What often we all do, and I struggle with it heavily with myself as well, is we do not want to feel the negative emotions, so we numb it out. But if we numb out negative emotions, we numb out positive ones as well. And if we don't feel deeply as humans, which is one of the biggest gifts that we have, then we won't create beautifully. I think that's one thing I would like everyone to keep in mind, to feel deeply.
That is some powerful advice, and I agree with it because a lot of beautiful art comes from pain. If you derive its origin, you can find that, like, the strong emotions or the when we are vulnerable, we are more exposed to bringing the best out of, and pain is more relatable than love. So uh, as you know, the frequencies of colors, it is similar for emotions as well. And I think if you speak at a kind of vulnerable state of mind, you broadcast your weaknesses, you show that people can relate more with you as compared to when you speak in a perfectionist or a elitist manner. So yeah, that is some great advice. And with that, i I thank you very much for coming on and being on the podcast. Thank you so much once again, and all the best for the launch.
Thank you for having me, Omkar. It's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Bye.
You too.